Divine money affirmations, inspired by the timeless teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, are not merely sentences repeated for comfort, but spiritual commands that align thought, vibration, imagination, and spoken word with the infinite supply of the divine. And when a person begins to speak these affirmations with faith, feeling, and unwavering certainty, the invisible laws of abundance begin to rearrange themselves in their favor. Because Florence taught that every word we speak is a form of spiritual power, a decree that goes out into the great cosmic substance and returns with its full harvest. And when we choose words of wealth, peace, and overflow, we choose a destiny where financial freedom, clarity, confidence, and opportunity flow toward us without resistance and always under grace in perfect ways. For money is not a cold material object, but a vibration, a spiritual current, a divine energy that responds instantly to the thoughts we hold, the beliefs we repeat, and the inner images we create. And when a person replaces thoughts of lack with thoughts of abundance, replaces fear with faith, replaces doubt with declaration, the entire pattern of their financial experience transforms. For Florence said that nothing comes uninvited and nothing stays unless we agree with it mentally, which means that wealth begins the moment we mentally agree with wealth, accept it, claim it, and speak it as ours by divine right. And so these divine money affirmations become keys that unlock the gates of financial flow. Affirmations like, I now declare that money comes to me in avalanches of abundance, under grace, in perfect ways. I am divinely guided to prosperous ideas, inspired opportunities, and effortless success. Everything I touch is blessed with increase. Unexpected money flows to me from expected and unexpected sources. My supply is endless, inexhaustible, and immediate. I live in the rich, royal, happy, harmonious vibration of wealth, and I give thanks that my financial good now pours into my life richly, freely, and constantly. And by repeating such affirmations with conviction, emotion, and inner imagery, one begins to rewrite the subconscious blueprint that controls every financial outcome. Because the subconscious mind is the spiritual workshop where all outer reality is shaped. And when the subconscious accepts abundance as truth, it begins to attract circumstances, relationships, opportunities, and ideas that match that inner belief. And sooner or later, the outer world begins to mirror the new inner pattern of wealth. For Florence taught that wealth is an inner knowing, not an outer chase, and that everything we desire already exists in the invisible realm, waiting for us to claim it boldly. And so divine money affirmations serve not only as spiritual decrees, but as mental reprogramming that cleanses the mind from old stories of struggle, fear, and insufficiency, replacing them with spiritual truth, that we are children of an infinite source, heirs to divine supply, and nothing good is ever withheld from us except by our own disbelief. But the moment disbelief is replaced with spiritual certainty, the floodgates open, the channels appear, and new supply rushes into our life in ways we could not have planned, controlled, or predicted. For the divine works through remarkable synchronicities and effortless alignments, bringing wealth from unexpected directions and through channels that astonish the rational mind. And as we continue speaking affirmations, we gradually dissolve the inner blocks that keep financial good from reaching us. Blocks of fear, resentment, worry, guilt, impatience, and unworthiness. Because Florence warned that negative emotions are the real thieves that rob us of our good, and that resentment ties us to poverty, fear magnetizes lack, worry closes doors, and guilt creates self-sabotage. But divine affirmations uproot these old patterns by installing higher truths, that abundance is our birthright, that prosperity is natural, that supply is endless, that opportunities are always ready, and that every desire already exists in the divine mind. And through this inner work, we begin to vibrate at a higher frequency, a frequency of wealth, gratitude, confidence, and openness that draws to us exactly what we expect, envision, and decree. Because the universe is perfectly mathematical and vibrational, always reflecting back to us the dominant feeling we hold.
And so when our dominant feeling becomes abundance, money begins to flow with ease. And the more we affirm divine supply, the more the subconscious accepts it, and the more life rearranges itself to match the new belief. And soon the person begins to experience subtle shifts. New ideas arrive, unexpected messages appear, people offer help, doors open, and opportunities align effortlessly. For this is the nature of divine supply: silent, graceful, and perfect. And so the individual who once felt trapped in limitation now begins to feel a new internal expansion, a quiet certainty that wealth is not something they chase, but something they attract by being aligned with the divine. And as this certainty grows, so does their financial reality, because belief precedes manifestation. And Florence emphasized that all manifestation begins with the spoken word, that words have magnetic power, and that what we speak, especially with feeling, becomes law for our world. So divine money affirmations must be spoken with intention, repetition, and gratitude. For gratitude is the multiplying power that accelerates all manifestation. And when a person feels grateful, even before the money arrives, the energy of gratitude acts like a magnet that pulls the manifestation rapidly into physical form. And so a person may say, "I give thanks that wealth now flows to me in rivers of gold." And by truly feeling that gratitude, they activate a frequency that matches the vibration of abundance itself. And Florence also taught that money must be welcomed with joy, not fear, because fear of money, fear of spending, fear of losing, fear of not having enough, all of these fears block the flow, while faith multiplies it. And so divine money affirmations must also include trust in the divine plan, trust in the timing, trust that supply is always on the way, trust that the path is guided, and trust that no good can ever be taken from a person whose faith is anchored in spiritual law. And as the person continues to affirm wealth under grace, they begin to embody the identity of someone who is wealthy, confident, capable, deserving, and connected to divine supply. And this identity is what draws new opportunities, because the universe always responds to who we believe we are, not who we try to become. And when we declare, "I am a magnet for divine wealth," under grace, in perfect ways, we claim the identity first and allow the manifestation to follow, because identity is the root of manifestation. And through continuous use of divine money affirmations, the person begins to shift from survival to expansion, from fear to faith, from scarcity to overflow, from confusion to clarity, from stagnation to momentum, and from small expectations to divine expectations. And it is in this elevated state that major breakthroughs begin to occur. Breakthroughs in career, business, relationships, creativity, intuition, and spiritual flow. Because wealth is not isolated. It affects the entire spectrum of life, lifting everything with it, creating more peace, more joy, more confidence, more generosity, more freedom, and more purpose. And this is the ultimate purpose of divine money affirmations, to bring a person into alignment with the divine plan for abundance, not just to accumulate material wealth, but to experience the peace, freedom, stability, and expansion that come from living in harmony with spiritual law. And Florence often said that abundance is not something you earn, but something you align with, and that when you speak divine words, you activate divine law. And divine law is always precise, always loving, always generous, and always responding to faith. And so these affirmations become spiritual tools that lift the consciousness out of lack and into divine supply. And once consciousness changes, circumstances have no choice but to follow, because the outer world is nothing more than a reflection of inner belief. And as the person continues this practice daily, speaking affirmations with intention in the morning, throughout the day, and at night before sleep, they begin to build a magnetic field of abundance around their life, a field that draws money, ideas, people, opportunities, and experiences that align with the frequency they are now holding. And gradually, wealth becomes natural, peace becomes normal, overflow becomes expected, and miracles become everyday occurrences, because this is the nature of life under grace: effortless, guided, and perfect. And so we affirm today with full conviction: divine wealth now flows to me in avalanches of abundance. I am aligned with infinite supply. Money comes to me easily, frequently, and abundantly. All channels of supply are open and clear. I am guided to inspired opportunities. I am worthy of infinite wealth. Everything I touch is blessed with increase. Everything I desire comes under grace in perfect ways. I walk in divine prosperity. I live in divine overflow. And so it is.